The Alpine International Real Estate Equity Fund was the top-performing mutual fund in the second quarter, according to Bloomberg data. Sam Lieber, the founder and CEO of Alpine Woods Capital Investors and also president of Alpine Mutual Funds, has managed the fund since 1989, and he joins us now. And Sam, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here, Betty.
Now, you've had a great second quarter,
right.
but I do have to mention to our viewers as well that we've got to put this in context, because last year your fund took a drubbing. I mean, it was down about 71%. You got hit for some of those bets on the emerging markets. So tell me, what happened exactly?
By the way, extending that context over 20 years, we've actually been outperformed in down markets every single year except for last year. So it was a unique downturn last year. A real
lot
tsunami.
Of people got wiped out.
Of course. Yeah. But emerging markets got hit very hard, and that's because people did no longer believe that the decoupling story. Plus, you had the commodity plays, which are a major factor in a number of the emerging markets, all of a sudden went away. That we've seen a recovery to a degree now. The real question is, where do we go from here? We've had a fabulous run, certainly last quarter. We're up 40, almost 50% year to date. That's great. The question is, what's next quarter? What's the quarter after that? And our view is that if you stick with the economies where there's economic growth, if you stay where there's places where there's job creation, and if you stay in markets where there is, in fact, population growth, then you're going to have those dynamic drivers that can create real estate value over time.
So like Brazil and India and China are some of the markets that you're interested in.
Exactly.
Those have been the ones that you've been interested in for quite some time.
That's
but
right.
I'm curious, though, from what you learned from last year, from the crisis, are there any lessons, any changes you've made to your strategy because of what happened last year?
Well, we looked very carefully at it, and we're doing certain things with stop-loss positions and things like that to protect ourselves. But frankly, the fall-off was so dramatic in post-Lehman. And if you look at what's happened post-Lehman, from 9/12, specifically the Friday before, you can see that most of the markets have not recovered fully. They have a long way to go. Certain markets, India, Brazil, they've come back pretty close to even. China, the real estate stocks that we follow have actually outperformed significantly since that time. But if you look at stocks in the U.S., they're down 48% for REITs in the U.S. since that time. In general, in the S&P is down 25%. So I think that we've got still a long way to go in terms of coming back to a normalization of returns. And fundamentally for real estate, it's what happens in the capital markets. And in particular, in the major developed markets, the U.S. and Europe and Japan, right now we have to see a new way to restructure the debt capital markets, because those are still frozen and they cannot adjust to the current valuation regime.
Right, one has to lead to another. Then,
yes.
Sam, in just the time that we have, on a final note, tell me in terms of what is the best way, if you want to invest in Brazil, or you want to invest in China, or France, even a developed market. What is the best way? Is it through the REITs, or is it through?
We've had non-REIT stocks have had great performance. There will be more REITs over time, but REITs are great when you have a high rental level and they can distribute that rental. In markets where you're actually growing and creating value, you want development-oriented companies. So we like a PDG Realty, for example, in Brazil, which caters to low-income housing. We like a company such as Nexity in France, which is also a developer of office and of residential, and that stock's had a great year. So we think that there are a number of different ways where you can find value in developed markets and growth in emerging markets.
Sam, out of time, but thanks so much for joining us. Sam
Pleasure.
Lieber of Alpine Woods Capital Investors.